In a galaxy filled with ancient civilizations and high-tech wonders, humanity was always seen as the underdog. For centuries, Earthlings were just tiny specks on the cosmic map, struggling to keep up with species that had been exploring the stars long before humans even knew what space was. But all of that changed one fateful day when scientists in Antarctica stumbled upon something extraordinary. Deep beneath layers of ice, researchers discovered traces of a mysterious substance, dark matter. At first, no one understood its true potential. It seemed like just another scientific curiosity. But as years passed, brilliant minds worked tirelessly to unlock its secrets. What they found was nothing short of revolutionary. Dark matter wasn't just some abstract concept. It could be harnessed to create unimaginable power. And humanity didn't waste any time putting it to use. Using this newfound technology, engineers built sleek, powerful warships unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. These vessels, called Aegis-class ships, weren't your typical clunky spaceships. They were fast, agile, and capable of bending space-time itself. With engines fueled by dark matter, they could travel across light years. In mere moments, their weapon systems were equally impressive, able to tear through enemy defenses with pinpoint accuracy. But here's the twist. Humanity didn't build these ships to conquer or destroy. Instead, their goal was simple: to join the Galactic Council, an interstellar governing body made up of advanced alien races. Humanity wanted to take its place among the stars, sharing knowledge, resources, and ideas. So, with hope in their hearts, they sent their fleet to Vega Prime, the glittering capital world where the Council held its meetings. Leading the delegation was a seasoned military officer known for her sharp mind and unshakable resolve. Her name wasn't important, but her presence certainly was. She commanded respect, not because she demanded it, but because she earned it. Under her leadership, humanity arrived at the council chamber, ready to prove themselves not as invaders, but as equals. The moment they stepped into the grand hall, however, reality hit hard. The room buzzed with whispers and sideways glances. To the other species, humanity was still an outsider, a newcomer who barely deserved a seat at the table. Some ambassadors openly mocked them, calling their ships primitive and their ambitions childish. One particularly arrogant representative sneered during negotiations, saying, "Your so-called dark matter vessels are nothing more than crude toys compared to our refined mastery of technology." The laughter that followed stung, but humanity's leader kept her composure. She didn't argue or lash out. Instead, she let their actions speak louder than words. Little did the council know, humanity's real test was yet to come, and when it did, they'd have no choice but to listen. Months passed after that humiliating encounter, and humanity continued working behind the scenes. While they couldn't ignore the insults hurled their way, they also refused to give up. Slowly but surely, they began forging alliances with smaller, less influential species who admired their determination. At the same time, they expanded their fleet, adding more Aegis-class ships to their arsenal. Each vessel was a testament to human ingenuity, designed not only for combat, but also for exploration and diplomacy. Then came the day that would change everything. News spread of Zorathian raiders gathering near Terran borders. These pirates were infamous for preying on weaker systems, looting resources, and leaving destruction in their wake. To them, humanity was an easy target, a soft spot, ripe for exploitation. They assumed Earthlings would cower in fear, begging for mercy. But they underestimated humanity's grit. Intelligence reports confirmed that the Zorathians planned to strike Epsilon Colony, a thriving human settlement located light years away from Earth. Knowing that help wouldn't arrive in time if they waited for reinforcements or worse, asked the Council for assistance. Humanity decided to act swiftly. Under cover of darkness, Their fleet moved silently through the void, positioning themselves perfectly for an ambush. When the Zorathian armada descended upon Epsilon Colony, expecting little resistance, they were met with a surprise they'd never forget. The Aegis ships emerged from the shadows, unleashing devastating barrages of dark matter energy. Within minutes, the pirate fleet was reduced to floating debris. Not a single human life was lost in the battle, thanks to the precision and efficiency of their weapons. Word of the victory spread quickly throughout the galaxy. Other species marveled at how humanity had managed to wipe out such a formidable foe without breaking a sweat. Yet, instead of earning praise, humanity faced accusations of recklessness. The Krillian ambassador, a towering figure with shimmering scales, stood up during the next council meeting and accused them of escalating tensions unnecessarily. "You think yourselves warriors," he growled, "but you are merely children playing with fire." Humanity's leader remained calm, knowing full well that their actions spoke louder than empty words. Deep down, she understood that proving themselves wouldn't happen overnight. But patience was a virtue humanity had mastered over centuries, and they were willing to wait for the truth to surface. Not long after the skirmish, strange signals started emanating from uncharted regions of space. These transmissions pulsed rhythmically, carrying no discernible language, yet resonating across vast distances. Every council member dispatched probes to investigate, eager to uncover the source of the mystery. However, none of the probes returned intact. Speculation ran wild. Was it a new form of life? An ancient weapon reactivated? Or perhaps something far more sinister? Humanity, too, intercepted fragments of the signal through their advanced sensors. Scientists aboard their flagship analyzed the data, searching for patterns. What they found shocked them. The pulses bore striking similarities to the mathematical equations used in their own dark matter research. Could whoever or whatever was sending the message understand humanity's tech better than anyone else? As fear gripped the galaxy, humanity prepared to take action once again. When the council convened to discuss the situation, arguments erupted left and right. Some suggested sending a joint expedition, while others advocated fleeing entirely. Amidst the chaos, humanity's leader rose to her feet. Her voice cut through the noise like a blade, commanding attention. "We will go alone if necessary," she declared firmly. "If there's even a chance this concerns us directly, we cannot afford to look away." Her boldness silenced the room, but only temporarily. Months had passed since humanity's bold stand against the Zorathian raiders, and while their victory was undeniable, it brought more questions than answers. The Galactic Council, a gathering of ancient and powerful alien species, continued to view humanity with suspicion. Instead of applauding their success in defending Epsilon Colony, many council members accused them of being reckless warmongers. Whispers filled the halls of Vega Prime, the council's glittering capital, as ambassadors debated whether humanity's rise was a threat or an opportunity. But humanity wasn't sitting idly by, waiting for approval. They knew they couldn't rely on the council's goodwill to secure their place in the galaxy. While the elder races squabbled over politics and protocol, Earth's leaders quietly worked on strengthening alliances with smaller, less influential species. These civilizations admired humanity's determination and resourcefulness, seeing them as kindred spirits who refused to bow to intimidation. Slowly but surely, humanity began building a network of support, one that would prove invaluable in the days to come. At the same time, engineers back on Earth were hard at work expanding the fleet. New Aegis-class ships rolled off assembly lines, each one sleeker and more advanced than the last. These vessels weren't just tools of war. They represented humanity's ingenuity and adaptability. Every ship carried cutting-edge technology powered by dark matter, the mysterious substance that had catapulted Earth from obscurity to prominence. Humanity understood the responsibility that came with wielding such power, and they were determined to use it wisely. Then, out of nowhere, trouble brewed once again. Reports began filtering in about Zorethian raiders massing near Terran borders. These pirates were notorious for their brutality, targeting weaker systems and plundering resources without mercy. To them, humanity was still an easy mark, a soft spot ripe for exploitation. They assumed Earthlings would cower in fear, too inexperienced to mount a proper defense. But they underestimated humanity's resolve and their capabilities. Intelligence. Operatives intercepted communications indicating that the Zorethians planned to strike Epsilon Colony, a thriving human settlement located light years away from Earth. The colony was home to thousands of families, scientists and engineers, all working together to build a better future among the stars. If the raiders succeeded, countless lives would be lost, and humanity's reputation would suffer a devastating blow. Faced with this dire threat, humanity made a decision that surprised even their closest allies. Rather than wait for reinforcements or appeal to the Council for help, they chose to act swiftly and decisively. Under cover of darkness, both literal and metaphorical, their fleet moved silently through the void, positioning itself perfectly for an ambush. The operation was risky, but hesitation wasn't an option. Every second counted. When the Zorethian armada descended upon Epsilon Colony, expecting little resistance, they walked straight into a trap. Humanity's Aegis ships emerged from the shadows, unleashing devastating barrages of dark matter energy. The precision of their attack left no room for error. Within minutes, the pirate fleet was reduced to floating debris, its ships torn apart by weapons far beyond anything the raiders had encountered before. The battle ended almost as quickly as it began. Not a single human life was lost, thanks to the efficiency and coordination of their forces. News of the victory spread like wildfire across the galaxy. Other species marveled at how humanity had managed to wipe out such a formidable foe without breaking a sweat. Yet, instead of earning praise, humanity faced accusations of recklessness. The Krillian ambassador, a towering figure with shimmering scales, stood up during the next council meeting and accused them of escalating tensions unnecessarily. "You think yourselves warriors," he growled, his voice echoing through the chamber. "But you are merely children playing with fire. Your actions endanger us all." Humanity's leader listened calmly, letting the words wash over her. She didn't argue or defend herself. Deep down, she knew that proving themselves wouldn't happen overnight. Actions spoke louder than words, and humanity's recent victory was just the beginning. Patience was a virtue they had mastered over centuries, and they were willing to wait for the truth to surface. Not long after the skirmish, strange signals started emanating from uncharted regions of space. These transmissions pulsed rhythmically, carrying no discernible language, yet resonating across vast distances. Every council member dispatched probes to investigate, eager to uncover the source of the mystery. However, none of the probes returned intact. Speculation ran wild. Was it a new form of life? An ancient weapon reactivated? Or perhaps something far more sinister? Humanity, too, intercepted fragments of the signal through their advanced sensors. Scientists aboard their flagship analyzed the data, searching for patterns. What they found shocked them. The pulses bore striking similarities to the mathematical equations used in their own dark matter research. Could whoever or whatever was sending the message understand humanity's tech better than anyone else? As fear gripped the galaxy, humanity prepared to take action once again. When the council convened to discuss the situation, arguments erupted left and right. Some suggested sending a joint expedition, while others advocated fleeing entirely. Amidst the chaos, humanity's leader rose to her feet. Her voice cut through the noise like a blade, commanding attention. We will go alone if necessary, she declared firmly. If there's even a chance this concerns us directly, we cannot afford to look away. Her boldness silenced the room, but only temporarily. The mysterious signals coming from the depths of uncharted space were unlike anything anyone had ever encountered. They weren't just random bursts of energy. They carried a rhythm, almost like a heartbeat. Each pulse seemed deliberate, as if trying to communicate, but in a language no one could decipher. Every species in the galaxy felt it, a low hum that resonated through their ships, their planets, and even their bones. It was impossible to ignore Dot for humanity. The discovery hit close to home. Their scientists had been analyzing fragments of this signal for weeks, trying to make sense of it. Back on Earth, teams worked around the clock, poring over data collected by their advanced sensors. What they found sent chills down their spines. The patterns in the transmission matched equations used in their own dark matter research. It was eerie, like someone out there knew exactly what humanity was doing and wanted them to know it. On board the flagship leading humanity's fleet, a scientist stood in front of a holographic display, his face pale with awe. "This isn't random," he said, pointing at the swirling lines of code floating in the air. "Whoever is sending this understands us, maybe even better than we understand ourselves." The implications were staggering. If the signal was meant for humanity, then why? And who or what was behind it? These questions haunted everyone involved, but they didn't have time to dwell on them. The Galactic Council was in chaos, arguing over how to respond. Some species wanted to send a joint expedition, pooling resources and ships to investigate. Others argued that meddling with unknown forces was a recipe for disaster. A few even suggested ignoring the signal entirely, hoping it would go away. But humanity wasn't about to sit back and wait. They'd come too far, fought too hard, to let fear dictate their actions. When the council meeting descended into shouting matches, humanity's leader stepped forward. Her voice was calm but firm, cutting through the noise like a blade slicing. "Through smoke, we will go alone if necessary," she declared, her words echoing through the chamber. "If this concerns us directly, and everything we've seen so far suggests it does, we cannot afford to look away." Her declaration stunned the room into silence. For a moment, no one spoke. Then, slowly, murmurs began to spread. Some ambassadors admired her courage, while others dismissed her as reckless. But one thing was clear. Humanity wasn't backing down. Preparations for the mission began immediately. Humanity assembled a small but highly capable task force, led by their flagship. 6 Aegis-class cruisers accompanied it, each equipped with experimental upgrades designed specifically for encounters with the unknown. These ships weren't just weapons platforms. They were laboratories, communication hubs, and shields all rolled into one. Humanity knew they might be walking into danger, and they were determined to be ready for anything. As the fleet ventured deeper into uncharted territory, strange phenomena began to occur. Stars flickered out of existence without warning, leaving gaping voids where light once shone. Gravitational anomalies warped space itself, making navigation nearly impossible. Crew members reported seeing ghostly echoes of ships long destroyed, their spectral forms drifting silently through the void. It was as if the fabric of reality was unraveling the closer they got to the source of the signal. Despite the growing unease among the crew, morale remained high. Humanity had faced challenges before, and they'd always found a way to adapt. This time was no different. Engineers worked tirelessly to recalibrate their systems, compensating for the bizarre distortions. Scientists pored over every scrap of data, searching for clues that might explain what they were dealing with. Even the youngest recruits aboard the ships pitched in, their enthusiasm infectious. Finally, after days of tense travel, they arrived. Floating amidst a shimmering nebula was a massive structure, unlike anything they'd ever seen. It looked like a jagged black diamond, its surface etched with glowing veins of energy. The pulses emanating from it grew stronger, vibrating through the hulls of their ships like a song only they could hear. The sight was both beautiful and terrifying. No one spoke as they approached, their eyes glued to the view screens. When they were close enough, scans revealed something astonishing: inscriptions carved into the surface of the artifact. At first glance, they appeared indecipherable, but upon closer inspection, the markings bore an uncanny resemblance to human mathematics. Not modern math, though this was ancient, primitive, yet unmistakably tied to humanity's earliest attempts to understand the universe. One of the lead scientists aboard the flagship stared at the readings, his hands trembling slightly. This can't be coincidence," he whispered. "These symbols are based on our oldest numerical systems. Whoever built this knows us, or knew us long before we ever dreamed of reaching the stars." The realization sent shockwaves through the crew. Humanity had always believed they were alone in their corner of the galaxy, struggling to catch up with older, more advanced civilizations. But now, staring at this alien monolith, they couldn't shake the feeling that they were part of something much bigger and much older than they'd ever imagined. Before attempting contact, humanity took every precaution. They deployed drones to gather more data, ensuring the artifact posed no immediate threat. Communication specialists tried broadcasting messages in various frequencies, hoping to establish a dialogue. But the artifact remained silent, its rhythmic pulses continuing unabated. Then, without warning, it activated. A blinding flash of light engulfed the fleet, forcing everyone to shield their eyes. When the brightness faded, a single transmission echoed through the void, not just to humanity's ships, but seemingly across the entire galaxy. The voice that spoke was neither male nor female, organic nor synthetic. It was something else entirely, a presence that defied description. To those who tamper with forces beyond comprehension, it intoned, its words resonating deep within the minds of all who heard them: cease or face annihilation. The message was short, but its impact was devastating. Across the galaxy, billions froze in terror as the transmission played on repeat. For humanity, however, the words carried an additional weight. The artifact hadn't singled them out, but the connection to their technology and their past was undeniable. Back in the council chamber on Vega Prime, panic erupted. Species that had mocked humanity now scrambled to understand what had happened. Whispers turned to shouts as ambassadors demanded answers. Humanity's leader stood quietly, watching the chaos unfold. She knew the truth would change everything for better or worse. When the room finally fell silent, she addressed the assembly, her voice steady and resolute. "This proves two things," she said, holding up the data logs recovered from the yacht. "Artifact. First, your wisdom is built on lies and fear. Second, humanity stands ready to bear the responsibility you've shirked for millennia." Her words hung in the air, heavy with meaning. Whether the galaxy liked it or not, humanity had stepped onto the stage, and they weren't going anywhere. The artifact loomed before humanity's fleet, its jagged black surface pulsing with an eerie energy. It was unlike anything they or anyone else in the galaxy had ever encountered. The crew aboard the flagship stared at it through their view screens, their faces a mix of awe and unease. This wasn't just some relic from the past. It felt alive, as if it were watching them back. Before making any move, humanity did what it always did when faced with the unknown. They observed, analyzed, and planned. Drones were launched to circle the structure, scanning every inch for weaknesses or hidden dangers. Scientists pored over the inscriptions etched into its surface, trying to decode their meaning. Communications specialists broadcast messages in dozens of frequencies, hoping to establish contact. But the artifact remained silent, save for the rhythmic pulses that seemed to grow stronger the closer they got. Then came the moment no one expected. Without warning, the artifact activated. A blinding flash of light engulfed the fleet, forcing everyone aboard to shield their eyes. For a few heart-stopping seconds, all systems flickered, and the hum of the engines faltered. When the brightness faded, the artifact began transmitting, not just to humanity's ships, but across the entire galaxy. The voice that spoke wasn't human, nor alien in any recognizable sense. It was something beyond comprehension, a presence that resonated not just in ears, but deep within minds. Its words sent shivers down spines everywhere. To those who tamper with forces beyond comprehension, it intoned, "Cease or face annihilation." The message repeated itself endlessly, echoing through the void like a cosmic warning bell. Across the galaxy, species froze in terror. Some civilizations went into lockdown, shutting down their spaceports and hiding behind planetary shields. Others scrambled to understand the source of the transmission, desperate to find a way to protect themselves. Fear spread faster than the signal itself, gripping the hearts of billions. For humanity, the message carried an additional weight. The artifact hadn't singled them out directly, but the connection to their technology and their past was undeniable. The inscriptions etched into its surface bore eerie similarities to humanity's earliest mathematical systems, suggesting a link far older than anyone had imagined. Was this a warning meant specifically for Earth? Or was it a broader cautionary tale aimed at all civilizations dabbling in dark matter? Back on Vega Prime, the council chamber erupted into chaos. Ambassadors shouted over one another, demanding answers that no one could provide. Some accused humanity of provoking the artifact, claiming their reckless experiments with dark matter had awakened something ancient and uncontrollable. Others called for immediate evacuation of nearby systems, fearing the artifact might unleash destruction on a galactic scale. Amidst the pandemonium, humanity's leader stood calmly, her expression unreadable. She didn't raise her voice or try to interrupt the shouting match. Instead, she waited patiently until the noise died down enough for her to speak. When she finally addressed the assembly, her tone was measured but firm. "This proves two things," she said, holding up data logs recovered from the artifact. Her words cut through the tension like a knife. "First, your so-called wisdom is built on lies and fear. You've kept secrets about dark matter for centuries, abandoning it because you were too scared to face the consequences. Second, humanity stands ready to bear the responsibility you've shirked for millennia." Her declaration stunned the room into silence. No one moved, no one spoke. For the first time in recorded history, the Galactic Council sat still, grappling with the truth laid bare before them. Humanity wasn't just pointing fingers, they were stepping up, willing to take risks and shoulder burdens others had avoided for eons. As days turned into weeks, the galaxy braced itself for whatever came next. The artifact continued broadcasting its ominous message, unrelenting and unwavering. Meanwhile, humanity worked tirelessly to unravel its mysteries. Back on Earth, researchers collaborated with scientists from allied species, pooling knowledge and resources to decipher the inscriptions and analyze the artifact's energy patterns. They knew time was running out. If the artifact truly posed a threat, they needed to understand it before it was too late. On board the flagship, the crew prepared for the possibility of direct interaction. Engineers fine-tuned their communication arrays, experimenting with new ways to reach the artifact. Pilots ran simulations, practicing maneuvers in case they needed to defend against an attack. Even the youngest members of the team pitched in, their determination shining brighter than any star in the sky. But it wasn't just about preparation, it was about unity. Humanity realized early on that they couldn't face this challenge alone. While many elder races remained distrustful, smaller species flocked to their side, inspired by their courage and resolve. Together, they formed a coalition, bound not by treaties or politics, but by a shared desire to survive and thrive. One day, during a particularly tense meeting aboard the flagship, a scientist made a breakthrough. After weeks of analyzing the artifact's pulses, he discovered a pattern embedded within the rhythm. It wasn't random noise, it was a sequence, almost like a code. Excited whispers rippled through the crew as they realized what this meant. The artifact wasn't just warning them, it was inviting them to respond with newfound hope. Humanity crafted a reply. Using the same mathematical framework found in the inscriptions, they encoded a simple message. We hear you. We seek understanding. Then, with bated breath, they transmitted it toward the artifact. Seconds stretched into minutes. The crew held their collective breath, waiting for a response. Just when doubt began creeping in, the artifact reacted. Its pulses slowed, then stopped entirely. For a brief moment, there was silence. And then, a new transmission came through nada. Warning this time, but a question. Why do you persist? The crew exchanged glances, unsure how to proceed. Humanity's leader stepped forward, her voice steady despite the weight of the moment. Because we have no other choice, she replied, speaking into the microphone connected to their communication. Array, we are explorers, builders, dreamers. To stop would mean losing ourselves. There was another pause, longer this time. Then the artifact pulsed once more, its rhythm softer, almost contemplative. Slowly, its glowing veins dimmed, and the oppressive energy surrounding it dissipated. Whatever force had been driving it seemed to retreat, leaving behind only the faintest trace of its presence. Though the immediate danger appeared to have passed, humanity knew this was far from over. The artifact had revealed a glimpse of something vast and ancient, something tied to the very fabric of existence. If they wanted to ensure their survival, and the survival of countless others, they would need to dig deeper. Uncovering truths buried beneath layers of time and space. Back on Vega Prime, the Council reconvened, though the atmosphere was markedly different. Gone were the accusations and dismissals. In their place was a cautious respect, tinged with curiosity. Humanity had proven themselves not just as warriors or innovators, but as stewards of hope in uncertain times. Though uneasy alliances formed, in the aftermath, one fact became undeniable. Humanity's rise wasn't just a fluke, it was destiny. And as the galaxy held its breath, waiting for whatever came next, humanity stood ready to face it head-on. The artifact's response or lack thereof left humanity and the rest of the galaxy in a state of suspended tension. The ominous pulses had stopped, replaced by an eerie silence that seemed to stretch endlessly through space. While some species took this as a sign of relief, others remained on edge, convinced the calm was merely the eye of a storm yet to come. Humanity, however, wasn't about to let their guard down. They knew better than anyone that unanswered questions could be just as dangerous as outright threats. Back aboard the flagship, the crew worked tirelessly to make sense of what had happened. Scientists pored over every byte of data collected during their encounter with the artifact, searching for clues hidden in its cryptic messages and energy patterns. Engineers ran simulations, testing theories about how the structure operated and why it reacted the way it did when humanity replied. Even the youngest recruits pitched in, their enthusiasm undimmed despite the weight of responsibility resting on their shoulders. What they discovered was both fascinating and unsettling. The artifact wasn't just a relic, it was alive in a way no one fully understood. Its inscriptions, once thought to be static carvings, shifted subtly over time, adapting to the rhythms of dark matter flowing around it. This meant one thing: the artifact wasn't dormant. It was listening. And now, thanks to humanity's bold attempt at communication, it seemed to recognize them. But recognition didn't necessarily mean acceptance. As days passed, strange phenomena began occurring near Earth's borders. Stars flickered unpredictably, vanishing and reappearing without explanation. Gravitational anomalies warped navigation routes, forcing ships to reroute or risk being pulled into oblivion. Some colonies reported seeing ghostly lights in the sky, glowing orbs that hovered silently before dissipating into nothingness. These events weren't random. They were warnings, reminders that the artifact's influence extended far beyond its physical form. Despite these ominous signs, humanity refused to retreat. Instead, they doubled down on their efforts, determined to bridge the gap between themselves and whatever force lay behind the artifact. Diplomatic envoys reached out to other species, urging them to set aside old rivalries and work together. Slowly but surely, alliances formed not out of fear, but out of necessity. For the first time in galactic history, humanity found itself at the center of a united front, leading a coalition of civilizations bound by a shared goal: survival. On Vega Prime, the council chamber buzzed with activity as ambassadors debated humanity's role in the unfolding crisis. Gone were the sneers and dismissals of the past. Instead, there was cautious respect mixed with lingering skepticism. When humanity's leader addressed the assembly, her words carried a newfound authority. "We stand here today, not as conquerors or aggressors," she said, her voice steady and clear, "but as representatives of hope. Hope that we can learn from our mistakes. Hope that we can rise above fear. And hope that, together, we can face whatever challenges lie ahead." Her speech resonated deeply, not because it promised victory, but because it acknowledged uncertainty. In a galaxy filled with ancient powers and endless mysteries, certainty was a luxury few could afford. What humanity offered wasn't perfection, it was resilience. It was the willingness to adapt, to grow, and to step forward even when the path ahead was shrouded in darkness. The Council's response was telling. Where once they had mocked humanity's ambitions, they now listened intently, weighing every word. Some factions still resisted, arguing that trusting such a young and inexperienced species was reckless. But most recognized that humanity's rise wasn't just a fluke, it was destiny. Their bold actions, from defeating Zorathian raiders to confronting the artifact, proved they were more than capable of bearing the burdens of leadership. As uneasy partnerships solidified, humanity turned its focus inward. Back on Earth, cities buzzed with excitement and determination. People rallied around the idea that their species wasn't just surviving, it was thriving. Schools taught lessons about the importance of curiosity and courage. Artists painted murals depicting humanity's journey from obscurity to prominence. Even children played games inspired by the Aegis fleet, dreaming of one day exploring the stars themselves. Yet amidst the optimism, there was also sober reflection. Humanity understood that wielding power came with responsibility. Dark matter. Technology had given them strength, but it had also exposed them to risks they barely comprehended. To ensure they used it wisely, leaders implemented strict regulations, mandating transparency and accountability at every level. Scientists collaborated openly, sharing discoveries rather than hoarding secrets. Every decision was guided by a simple principle: progress must never come at the cost of destruction. Months later, another breakthrough occurred. Researchers analyzing the artifact's energy signatures identified a faint trail, a thread of dark matter stretching across the galaxy like an invisible tether. Following this trail led them to a second structure, smaller but equally mysterious, located near the edge of known space. Unlike the first artifact, this one emitted no pulses or warnings. Instead, it radiated a gentle warmth, almost inviting. Exploration. Humanity approached cautiously, accompanied by representatives from allied species. Together, they entered the structure. discovering chambers filled with holographic projections depicting scenes from eons past. These images told a tale of civilizations rising and falling, of forces harnessed and misused, of lessons learned too late. At the heart of the structure lay a final message, etched into the walls and languages spanning countless cultures. Balance is fragile. Guard it well. The realization hit everyone simultaneously. The artifacts weren't weapons or traps, they were safeguards, placed throughout the galaxy to prevent history from repeating itself. Whoever had created them understood the dangers of unchecked ambition and sought to guide future generations toward harmony rather than chaos. With this knowledge, humanity made a choice. Rather than exploiting the artifacts for personal gain, they vowed to protect them, ensuring their messages reached every corner of the galaxy. They established research stations near each site, dedicating resources to studying and preserving the structures. Allies joined the effort, contributing expertise and manpower. Slowly but surely, the galaxy began to heal, united by a common purpose. Years passed, and humanity's place among the stars became undeniable. They weren't perfect, they made mistakes, faced setbacks, and endured hardships, but they persevered. Through it all, they remained steadfast in their commitment to balance, understanding that true strength lay not in domination, but in cooperation. One evening, aboard the flagship, humanity's leader stood gazing out at the stars. Behind her, the crew worked quietly, their movements synchronized like a well-oiled machine. She thought back to the early days, when humanity was seen as nothing more than a curious newcomer. Now they were leaders, guides, and protectors. The road ahead was long and uncertain, but she felt a quiet confidence. Whatever came next, they would face it together. As she turned to leave, a young recruit approached her, holding a datapad. "Ma'am," he said hesitantly, "we've detected another signal. It's different from the others." She smiled, placing a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "Then let's find out what it has to say." And so, humanity continued onward, driven not by fear or greed, but by the belief that even in the vastness of space, hope could light the way.